Okay, so welcome everybody. What we're going to be talking about today is really easy but important ways that you can clean up your resume, add some really good points. You know, I'm going to tell you what employers are looking for in a resume, and hopefully we can get your 2022. Boy, I almost said 2021, but your 2022 job search kicked off in the right direction. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And I'm always nervous about this because I always forget to see what else I've got loaded up. But there we go. All right, so, and Christina, if you can just give me a verbal confirmation that you can see my PowerPoint.
I can see it. Looks
Excellent.
beautiful.
Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, um, so the topic today, the title of today's presentation is Resume Revamp, the story behind the story. What I mean by that, the story behind the story, your resume is a story. It's the story of your career. It's also the story of your goals, your career goals, what you want to do in the future. Um, and too many resumes today don't tell enough of that story. They kind of tell the surface story. So what we're going to be talking about today is how you can actually add a couple more chapters, really interesting chapters to that story, by going a little bit deeper. And again, this is what employers are looking for. Okay, so we're going to get you there. All right, so let's get started. First of all, we're going to talk about the resume day philosophy. The resume day philosophy is this: the resume that gets the most face time with the reader of the resume gets the interview. Okay, now, if you've been searching for a job for a while, you know that quite often the reader of the resume, the first reader of the resume, is not always a human, it's a machine. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about ATS and what that means as well. But once your resume passes through that ATS, then it gets into the hands of a human. So remember that you're actually writing for two different readers. First, the machine, and then second, the human. And you need to respond properly to both elements. Okay. So again, the resume that gets the most face time with the reader of the resume gets the interview. And the second part of my philosophy is no wimps allowed. I love this little guy. He's probably, 30 years old and has a mortgage by now, but I'm still always going to use his picture. And what I mean by no wimps allowed is this: learn about the tools that are available to you. Learn about the job search tools. Learn about ATS, that's the keyword scanner. Learn about LinkedIn if you're not on LinkedIn every single day. I'm still talking to people who aren't on LinkedIn or who have a skeletal profile but aren't really using it. These are all tools that really will help put your job search ahead and put you ahead of your competition. So that's what I mean by no wimps allowed. Grabbing onto these tools that are available, embracing them, learning about them, capitalizing on them, using them to your advantage. That's what no wimps allowed means. And coming to presentations like this so you can learn about what these things are in the first place. That is no wimps allowed. And congratulations to you for being here. All right, so let's first talk about resume format. And this is important because your resume format is the very first thing that anyone, well, by the time it gets to the human reader, at least, that's what your first impression is. Okay, so content is absolutely critical, but format is too. All right, so I've been writing resumes for over 20 years. Actually, last year was my 20th anniversary in business. So I have written so many resumes. In that time, I've had hundreds, maybe more, hundreds of people say, I need a functional format, because I am changing careers, or I went to school, mid-career and got a new degree, or I've been out of work for a really long time. Whatever. I've been in prison for 5 years. I get all the reasons why people think, why they might have been told that they should use a functional format. And I'm going to give you an example in the next slide here. So bear with me if you're not quite sure. But as I'm going to point out, a functional format is never the right answer. Unless you happen to know that your resume will not be uploaded into an ATS. But even then, a functional format is just never going to be the proper response for any job lead. No matter what those, but I, took a long gap in my career, but I'm changing careers, but I, whatever it is, all those but I's, none of them equal a functional resume to me. 100% of the time, a chronological format is the way to go. Now, there are people who come up with, hybrid version and all that. Yeah, then you're just complicating things. Go with the chronological. Really, really quickly. It's easy to follow. A chronological, you know exactly what you're going to be saying. It's easy. The employer, if they're looking for specific information, if they want to know where and when you last worked, boom, they know right where they're going to find it. If they want to see where you went to school, they're going to know. If they want to see, well, what was your turning point in your career? They're going to be able to find that right in the middle of your resume or, wherever it may be. What they're looking for, they need to find quickly. If not, they'll go to another candidate. Okay. And then also one of the most compelling reasons for a chronological format, and this is absolutely always the least popular among my clients, is that recent equals relevant. And that really is true. And so you will be looked at as what you did most recently in your career to see how qualified you are for this next step of your career. Now, that doesn't mean that you cannot change industries. I love writing transition resumes. They're actually my favorite to write. It just means that you have to do a little bit of a better job. You have to tell a different story. And you really have to think about what that story is and what that story will mean to the reader. Okay. So I like to think of a resume like a really well put together closet. In this particular closet on this slide, if you want a hat, you know where the hat is going to be. If you want to wear boots, you know where the boots are going to be. It's just really nice, organized, and pleasant to look at. Think of that like your resume. If you have one that's all, messy and thrown about and clothes are jumbled up in a big mess everywhere, that the employer kind of looks at that saying, I don't know where this person's history is. It's all jumbled up in a weird format. This is confusing and this is going to take me more time than I'm willing to give to this candidate. So I'm going to move on. That's exactly what happens with employers and recruiters. Okay. So think about just chronological, easy to follow, easy to find, and recent equals relevant. Now I told you that I was going to give you an example of a functional resume, and here you go. So this is an actual, and I received permission from my client, but this is a before resume of one of my clients. She worked with us quite some time ago, and she had a functional resume. It wasn't getting any calls on. She said, I really think that my resume is good. I put some numbers in there. I clearly show what I've been doing. Why am I not getting any calls? Okay, so let's go and go through this resume, take it apart bit by bit here, and then I'll try to explain why this resume was not getting her the traction that she felt that she deserved. And by the way, that she did deserve, because she was great. So first of all, oh, and by the way, I removed the content and I only put I removed the contact information, but normally in any resume, obviously on the top, you'd have the person's name, email, phone number, LinkedIn profile, et cetera, et cetera. So I just cut off, and I'm giving you the body of the resume here. So at the very top, she has an objective statement, which is going to be one of the next things that we talk about, by the way. I'm not a fan of objective statements. In 20 plus years of writing resumes, I've never written an objective statement. All right. So I'm always going to fall back to a really good personalized summary that really sets you apart from your competition. Okay, but let's take a look at this objective. To earn a sales position in a healthcare-oriented organization that values energetic, caring, and empathetic sales professionals. So this objective, like most objective statements out there, is really saying, hey, employer, here's who you need to be in order to get me. In order to get my sales expertise, you need to value energetic, caring, and empathetic sales professionals. Do employers like having those types of conversations with someone before they've even invited them in for an interview? No. The employer is saying, yeah, but who are you? It has to be a two-way street here. So for that reason, most objective statements out there really are off-putting, send the wrong message, and don't give any of the right information that employers are looking for. So that's just a waste of space. All right, so we're going to get rid of that. Next, the summary of achievements. So if we look at this one, the very first summary of achievement that she is boasting is overall career sales in senior housing exceeding $40 million. Now, at first glance, that sounds like, holy cow, that's amazing. But is there any data showing what the average is? Is there anything saying, well, maybe the next person right under her only closed about 20 million in business over their career, whatever it is. But what if the average in her industry over, X amount of years is 80 million? The employer may know that, say, 40 million, she's not really a top performer. So without that data, without any comparative and competitive information to go along with that, it really loses a lot of luster and doesn't really, it just doesn't give us a foothold in this part of the resume. Now, this next one, constant focus on client care and customer service. Is that really an achievement? No, it's like saying you wake up every time, every day on time. Because you should be giving constant focus on client care. And then this next one, both internal and external customers. That's just clutter. That's just clutter. Now this next one, successfully closed 25 sales in 4.5 months, increasing occupancy rate from 37 to 92%. I love this bullet. I absolutely love it. But the next logical question that any employer or recruiter is going to ask is, what year did that happen? And we just don't know. We don't know. Because if you look down into her work history, every single one of these positions, even if though they've got, fancier different titles and such, every single one of them was sales, selling residential properties to seniors in senior communities. So maybe she did this in 2019. Fantastic. But maybe if we look down, she's been in this industry since 1998. Well, maybe that's the year that she performed that. Does that matter? You bet it does, because employers want to know, in the bell curve of your career, where are you at? Are you at the very early? Are you at the peak? Are you kind of coming down a little bit to a, downshift in your career? Employers want to know that because they want to know, if we're looking for a high-powered senior person, then we want someone right at the, right at the upstart or at the peak of their career. We don't want someone who peaked in 1998. Okay, so for that reason, and then, going down to the work history, there are no bullets. Again, this is a classic functional format. There are no bullets under each position, so we really can't get any idea of what she did. Were there any promotions? How many sales did she close in each one? What was an average book of business for her? Who was in her portfolio? Who were people that she was selling to? Were they high net worth people? What was it? So there's just not enough information here for an employer to really understand who she is and how fantastic she really is. Now, the other reason is the very first filter that I mentioned, and that's the ATS, the keyword scanner. A keyword scan, well, first of all, there are so few keywords in here that she probably would get maybe like an 8% keyword match, if that. And we're looking for 80, by the way. But the keyword scanner is going to look at this and not know what to pluck out, because a keyword scanner is a machine that can only do what it's programmed to do. It can't think, it can't reason, it can't make exceptions. All right. So keyword scanners are programmed to pull out work history and bullets. Well, it's just going to plop in work history and nothing else. Summary of achievements, it may not pull that out whatsoever, which means all of those bullets under the summary of achievements may not make it to the recruiter or employer who is using that ATS. So for that reason, I hope that I've convinced, if anyone here is using a functional format, I hope I've done my job and convinced you to go to a traditional chronological format. So I told you we were going to pick on objective statements, and here we go. Let's see. So objective statements, again, they're one-sided. Hey, employer, You better do this for me. A lot of objective statements are like, to obtain a challenging position in a growing company where I can utilize my skills and education and blah, blah, blah. Well, that's saying, hey, employer, you better be a growing company. You better challenge me. You better use my skills and, my education and all that. Well, again, the employer is saying, but who are you? Okay. So a summary statement, 3 to 5 sentences that clearly separates you from the rest of the pack and shows how you are better than your best competition. That is what a good summary statement can do. Okay. Now, excuse me. So who's your competition? Do you know the other people who are going to be applying to the same jobs as you? Of course not. You can't call the employer and say, so I'm really trying to customize my summary for you guys, and I want to compare myself to the other applicants. Can you give me their names? Absolutely not. You're never going to get that information. But if you've been in your industry a while, you know, who's moving around, who your competition is, whether it's within the same company, whether it's outside. If you're in sales, the other company's salespeople that are trying to make those same appointments as you. Or go to LinkedIn. Just do a quick search on LinkedIn and find people who are in your same industry at your same level. You don't know if they're looking for a job or not, but that's okay. Take a look at a bunch of different profiles and just say, these people are my competition. Because let's be honest, I like to say everyone on LinkedIn is, whether it's a passive search or an out loud search, everyone's looking for their next opportunity because you just never know. That's what a smart employee does, right? So consider everybody in your industry at your level, your competition. Take a look at their LinkedIn profiles, see who they are, see how they position themselves, see what their education is, see what they're continuing. What classes are they taking mid-career to make sure that their skills are still sharp. All of those kind of things. And then that's how you figure out, okay, I think that these people, in this industry are my competition. How am I better than them? Do I have a degree that positions me differently? Do I have different experience? All that kind of stuff. But you have to know who you're going against in order to compete properly. And the best way is just to assume everybody at your level in your industry is your competition. So get to know them by their LinkedIn profiles. It's competitive research. Every company does competitive research. Think of yourself like a company. All right, so now let's talk about buzzwords, because keywords is a buzzword. Every resume has to have keywords. But there are buzzwords and then there are keywords, and I want to make sure that you understand the distinction between each. Because everyone knows, everyone knows about the ATS, everyone knows about the keyword scanners, right? Oh, I have to get keywords in my resume. Yeah, you do, but you have to make sure that you're putting in the right keywords. So here's a short list of words that I see in just about every single resume, and candidates put them in their resumes because they think these might be the keywords, but they aren't. Words like hardworking, dedicated, seasoned. By the way, seasoned means old. That's it. On a resume, in the job search, seasoned means old. So there are so many better ways to say that than seasoned. Loyal, results oriented, highly motivated. This last one is not a proper acronym. I just had to make it an acronym because it's too long for the slide. It's finished projects, on time and under budget. If you have any of these words in your resume, just know they are not getting you any traction. Employers don't care about those words. These words will never be keyed into a keyword program. You might as well get rid of them. And just remember, there's always a better way to say these same things. Okay. Now, if we were, thanks to COVID, we're here over Zoom. And again, thank you for joining me over Zoom. I'm hearing everybody say that they're zoomed out. So I appreciate you being part of my audience today. But if we were in person, I'd be doing a little poll and have everyone, give me raise your hand. And here's what I would be asking. Raise your hand if you are hardworking. And guess what? Everyone's hands would go up. Raise your hand if you are dedicated. Everyone's hands would go up. I always skip seasoned. Raise your hand if you're loyal, results-oriented, highly motivated, etc. And guess what? Everybody's hands go up. So here's the thing. If you're saying something and everybody else in the room can say the same thing about themselves, it doesn't belong on your resume because it's not special. Okay, and that's what we're looking for. We're looking to distinguish you from everyone else. So leave out these buzzwords that don't mean anything. Employers' eyes gloss over them, and it's not positioning you as anyone special or more capable or differently capable than anybody else. All right, so get rid of those buzzwords. So, in the resume checklist that we're creating here, first and foremost, check your format. Second of all, check for buzzwords. If you've got any of these buzzwords, just scratch them off or delete, and I'm going to show you how you can use different words to say the same thing, but better. So every time I feel that frog in my throat, I'm going to take another drink to hopefully avoid it. So these are actual keywords of two positions. Okay, I took a graphic designer and a marketing manager. And I said, what are the keywords for these positions? So if you are a graphic designer, and by the way, this is a very, very short list. Again, by the boundaries of the PowerPoint slide, I had to fit this in. But if this were an actual keyword list that I were creating for a client, this list would probably be around 3 or 4 times longer than it is now. So graphic designer, their keywords that must be in their resume, as long as they have this experience, Adobe, huge, Adobe suite, agency, artist, branding, concepts, skip down, layout, visual, WordPress, all of those. And again, more and more along, 3 or 4 times the length of this list, you want to make sure to create your keyword list. By the way, create your keyword list before you even start writing your resume. And that way you can write your resume with the keywords getting in there the first time, rather than writing your resume, working out for hours and hours, and I say, oh man, here's a list of 50 keywords that I now have to somehow squeeze into my resume. So find your keywords first. For a marketing manager, if anyone out there is in marketing, none of these are going to be a surprise to you. Marketing campaigns, product positioning, content development, focus groups, market research, media relations, social media, web analytics, all of those, none of these are going to be a surprise, but these are the keywords that you need to have in your resume if you're going to get past that ATS. Okay. By the way, ATS stands for Applicant Tracking Software. So if you want to do some research on your own, if you look up ATS, you'll find it, but Applicant Tracking Software or Applicant Tracking System is what ATS stands for. It's kind of a fascinating science. So I know way too much about it, and I bore people at parties. But again, for a marketing manager, same thing. This list of keywords for a marketing manager, 3, 4, 5 times as long as I'm showing on the screen. Now, where did I get this list? This is really important, because for those of you who are not resume writers, you're saying, okay, fantastic. Where do I get this list? Do I just have to know it in my head because I've done the job? Absolutely not. Google. It's very simple. My resources are no different than your resources. You know what I do? I open up a Google page and I type in quotes, so that I get, so this is a correct search. In quotes, I'll put marketing manager, and then after that, resume keywords. Click enter, and pages of keyword articles, lists, etc. will pop up. And then I go there and I just start writing, grabbing down the keywords and make a really good list. Here's another place where you can go. Again, I think you'll get the idea that this is one of my favorite websites, is LinkedIn. Go to LinkedIn, do a search for other marketing managers, whether they, you can search by industry, or if it doesn't matter to you, you can search geographically. That may not matter to you, but do a search for marketing managers. Pull up a bunch of profiles, and where are you going to go in that LinkedIn profile? You're going to scroll down a little bit to skills and endorsements. Skills and endorsements, basically that section is just a keyword list. That's all it is. So go to a bunch of different profiles, not just one, because maybe you go to one and the person doesn't have a great profile, but pull up a bunch of them and just start looking and seeing, what your peers, what your colleagues are putting in their skills and endorsements. That's literally your keyword list. So it doesn't have to be complicated. And by the way, going to someone's profile, that's public information. You're not cheating. You're not violating anyone's privacy. You may get a message the next day saying, "Hey, I noticed you were looking at my profile. Is there anything I can help you with?" Just say, "Hey, I'm just a marketing manager, just trying to keep up to date in the industry. And you have a great profile. Love your profile picture. Have a great day." I mean, it could just be something simple like that. Whenever I get someone uh, contacting me saying, "Hey, I noticed you were looking at my profile. Can I help you with something?" By the way, that's kind of a clue that that person may be looking for a job. If they're actually like really cognizant of who's looking at their profile, most people aren't. But if I need a little excuse, just a quick little excuse, I say, "Oh, I was looking for someone who had your same name. Clicked on your profile, realized it wasn't them. Have a great day. Love your profile picture." So don't worry about it. It's not like you're invading anyone's privacy by doing that. And it's there and it's public. So use the information that you've got. That's no wimps allowed. All right. So now how do we create a summary? All right. Because again, what do we want? 3 to 5 sentences that clearly distinguishes you, that differentiates you from your best competition. So when I'm writing someone's summary, there are a couple questions I ask them to get better information. Those questions: what do you love about your work? When people are talking about their work from a place of what they really, really enjoy, their energy goes up, their voice and their actions become a little more animated, right? And that's how I can tell, this is a good thing in this person's work. This is what we should focus on. Okay, so think about that. What area, what part of your work do you absolutely love? And then follow that energy. Okay, that's what you want to build your summary around. Next question: what are the highest level skills you possess in relation to the job? Now, this is even if you're transitioning to a different industry. What are your highest level skills you possess in relation to this job? Well, here's the thing: you're always going to take all of your skills with you into your next job. So figure out your highest level skills. That not only is going to give you a better summary statement because you're talking from a place of confidence and competence, but you're not, most likely, again, 20 years of doing this, I've got a good idea that you're not going to be transitioning to an industry that uses your lowest level skills. Okay. Most everybody, when they transition, they're going to transition to something where they may not know the job, they may not know the industry, but the skills that they're going to use on that job, they're pretty comfortable with. Of course, there's always a learning curve. I understand that, but you're just not, if you're going to go try to transition to into an industry where you have no skills whatsoever, you're going to be having a difficult time. So that's why I say, what are the highest level skills you possess? And then talk about those. And then also, if there's something of value in your background that is unique to the normal industry route. And I love this one. Not a lot of people like to talk about, well, if I took a left turn in my career. I've been in HR and I took a left turn and went into sales for a couple years, but then realized I really love HR and went back. Well, a lot of people would get the sense, and a lot of people have been told by recruiters. I've heard recruiters tell people this, that, you know what, just leave that off your resume. Ah, oh, bad advice, bad advice. I don't say leave it off your resume. I say capitalize on it. How can we use this experience as a plus? How can we use this experience to differentiate yourself from all other candidates? Well, what did you learn? What did you do in sales that you wouldn't do in human resources, but now you have additional skills? I know it's been out of business for a couple of years now, but Payless, remember Payless shoes? They always had the BOGO sale, right? BOGO stood for buy one, get one. Well, employers really like BOGO sales too. When they hire an employee, they would love it if that employee had extra skills. So maybe this is someone who could do additional projects or change that job description in a little bit because of these different skills. So really, when you think about it, if you have something that's really different, don't don't put it in the corner. It's not dirty dancing. Don't put baby in the corner. I say shine a bright light on that baby and make it part of your story. All right. Because employers may look at that and say, holy cow, this person can do human resources, but they've also done contract negotiations or presentations or, whatever things that salespeople do. Closing contracts, negotiating contracts. I might have said that one already. Maybe this person learned Salesforce. Well, that's fantastic because we're going to be implementing Salesforce soon. Whatever it is, that might be that little extra plus that puts you over the edge above someone else. So I'm going to go through not a lot, but just a couple of summary statements here. And these are all afters. I'm not showing you the before because just, for time. But these are all summaries that hit the street. And my client got a job very quickly. And a lot of it was because of the summary statement. So I'm not going to read this out loud. I'll give you a second to, go over the screen here. Actually, I'm going to take that back. I am going to read these because there are some points that I want to talk about each one. So let's go over this one. This is the summary that we created for one of our clients. And by the way, the before, let's just assume the before was one of those awful objective statements that said, to obtain a challenging position, growing company, blah, blah, blah. So as a marketing communications leader, I'm equally adept at developing and implementing B2C, which is business to consumer, social media, and e-marketing campaigns as I am managing advertising, print materials, and trade shows. My sales background, organizational abilities, visual skills, and writing talents all combine to drive winning solutions. Throughout my career, I've worked in entrepreneurial startups to global environments. So a couple things here. First thing you may notice are pronouns. In a summary, I write what I call a human summary statement, a human resume. And what that means is I'm going to use pronouns just in the summary statement. I promise we don't do it in the rest of the body of the resume goes to the traditional bent of no pronouns, fragments, short, quick ideas. But the summary, and again, we're not talking about a lot of space, 3 to 5 sentences. That's not terrible. But we're actually starting to tell that story, right? So we use pronouns. The second thing is, for this particular client, this one is stuffed to the gills with keywords, and even more keywords. So right at the very beginning of the resume, we're going to get that ATS pinging. Ping, 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 ping. So lots of keywords in the summary statement, but we're also very clear as to what this person's highest level skills and passion is about the job they're doing. Okay. So this is what I want you to think of in your own profession. Think of a 3 to 5 sentence story about you talking about what you do, what you love to do, and what you're really, really good at doing. That's what a great summary statement can be. So let's go over maybe one or two more. Let's see. Oh, this is a person who, if I'm remembering correctly, a real estate broker looking to transition up to managing other real estate brokers. So if you take a look at this one, my experience as a real estate broker is complemented by well-rounded background in management, marketing, and customer service. 3 great things that anyone managing real estate brokers, real estate agents need to have. Okay, 3 things have been consistent: ability to listen and understand others' needs, unique tactics in marketing, and my drive to achieve performance goals. That's someone with those skills. That's someone who is primed to be leading other people to do that job. Whether I'm leading a team or building a custom website to sell a home, I bring my focus, energy, and creativity. Love to learn, try new things, and now the little Zoom things are blocking my view, but I don't know if they're blocking yours too. I hope not. But again, we're telling a story, and the story of this person is that they really were clearly cut out to be qualified for a management job, and she got it. All right, so you know what? We'll do this one. This will be the last one that I do. I might have more, but I'll kind of sift through those. But this one, I absolutely love this one, and I love using this as an example. So here we go. I'm a marketing executive who is unabashedly zealous about creating revenue and skilled at executing national integrated marketing programs, brand strategies, and positioning tactics that maximize profitability. Now, by the way, that first paragraph, that may sound like a lot of kind of biz buzz, and it is. But he wasn't going for a transition. He was going from a very high level marketing executive looking for another high level marketing executive. So this language speaks directly to his audience. I believe that real numbers and good data steer good decisions, and use them to understand the key drivers of the business and create messages that will resonate with customers in support of revenue goals, thrive on opportunities to ignite achievement in underperforming projects. So this one, the phrase in here that gets everyone's attention, good or bad, is unabashedly zealous. So when I'm presenting this particular example in front of a group of people, I always say, okay, so show of hands, how many of you love the phrase unabashedly zealous? And let's say this would be a group of 50 people. And I said, how many of you love the phrase unabashedly zealous? Maybe 15 or 16 hands would go up. I'm like, okay, that's fair. How many of you hate the phrase unabashedly zealous? And almost everybody else's hands go up. And then, of course, there are the people who are just like, I don't care either way. I don't want to be here. And that's fine. But here's what I want you to tell you about this. I did not actually come up with that phrase. My client did. The person whose resume this is, I said, so what do you want every single employer to know about you? And he said, Lauren, I want all of my employers to know that I am unabashedly zealous about making money. I said, ooh, that's a beautiful phrase. I left out the making money, finessed it a little bit, but that unabashedly zealous, it was an earworm I could not get out of my head. Now, remember, what industry is this guy in? Marketing, advertising, big concepts, right? Big concepts, big ideas, big language. And so the phrase unabashedly zealous completely works for him and his industry. And by the way, the amount of awards and I think he had 4 or 5 national campaigns that I knew, and I was singing his jingles back to him. So, these big ideas and phrases like unabashedly zealous really, really fits with his profile. I like to say that would I use unabashedly zealous for anyone? Absolutely not. I'm not going to say, I'm a dental hygienist who is unabashedly zealous about flossing. It's not going to work for everyone. But I show this example to you as a reminder. Think about this. What parts of your job or your career are you unabashedly zealous about doing? What gets you out of bed? You don't have to use this phrase. I hope you don't, because again, I'm not even the one who came up with it. My client did. But just keep that in mind. What of my job am I unabashedly zealous about doing? That's where you start creating your message. Okay. I hope that makes sense. Let's see. Oh, you know what? Let's go back to this one because I forgot. I actually threw one of my own summary statements in here. So I might as well walk the walk and talk the talk, right? Let's see. I have a couple different resumes depending on who the audience is. But my summary statement, I can tweak it a little bit, but for the most part, it doesn't change all that much. So here it is. As the owner of Resume Day, I combined my expertise as a top-rated career coach with a background in business operations, sales, and HR. That, by the way, is what makes me a pretty good resume writer. I consistently deliver inventive and strategic solutions to my clients' job search challenges, resulting in clients who don't have to compromise on salary or career level. Now, I want to point out this sentence. There's a very specific reason that I put the sentence in. It's very strategic. A good way for you, I talk to so many people who say, I don't want to brag about myself. I'm not comfortable bragging about myself. I feel really weird if I brag about myself, right? First of all, writing a summary statement about yourself is not bragging. And by the way, if you aren't comfortable with bragging, you probably could amp up your bragging by about 40% and other people would still not think you're bragging. But a great way, if you're uncomfortable with saying, talking about me, all that, talk about what your clients get from working with you. Okay. So in this sentence, I consistently deliver inventive and strategic solutions to my clients' job search challenges, resulting in clients who don't have to compromise on salary or career level. That's the benefits that my clients get. So think about that. If you really, I if well, I don't want to brag. I don't like talking about myself. Well, what are the benefits of the people who work with you? Think about that, and that could be a great way to create your summary statement where you feel better because you're talking about other people and how they benefited, how great they became, or what a great job they were able to do because of the work that you set up for them. Okay, so that might be the in to you writing a really great summary statement. All right, so let's pass on that. The rest is just fine, but I wanted to point out that one sentence. Now, here is, how do I get started? How do I get started writing the summary statement? Well, here's a quick format. If you want me to email this to you, if you can take a picture of the slide if you want. I don't mind. If you want me to email this to you, just shoot me a quick message. I'll be happy to do that. But this is just a really simple formula for you to fill in the blanks, and then you build it out from there. This should not be your entire summary statement. But and there are two here. The top one is if you are going from one industry and staying within that industry. The second one is if there's going to be some career transition in your future. Okay. Like I said, you could take a picture of this, but if you want me to email this instead, just drop me a quick note. No problem. Now, going on to the body of the resume. So how long have we been on this now? All we've talked about is the first 3 to 5 sentences of the resume. But you know what? I believe that the summary statement is really the most important part of the resume. I've said it for years, so this is nothing new, and it's something that I back up and I stand behind. I really do believe that the summary statement is the most important part of the resume because it's setting up, it's the introduction. It's either going to grab someone's attention and make them want to learn more about you, or it's going to be ho-hum and run of the mill, nothing special, which gives the immediate first impression to the employer that the rest of the resume is going to be the same. So I say go big with a great personalized, customized summary statement, and then follow it up with a great resume. But you know what? If you've done that much work on the summary statement, the rest of the resume isn't that hard because you're already in that mode of thinking highest level skills. What do I love to do? What am I really good at? When you're in that mindset, you're really prepared to write a great resume. Okay, so I want you to create bullets that have some punch to it, some kapow. Here is a list, and there are many others. This is not a complete list by any means, but just ways to get you started about thinking about your bullets. So some things to think about: times that you have dealt with crisis situations, times that you have juggled priorities. My goodness, what have we been in the past 2 years? Nothing but crisis situations and juggling priorities. So if you've been working throughout the pandemic, you probably have a good few stories that you can tell from that. But then also think about it, even dating back to what was it? I'm trying to think of the years of the recession here, 2008-ish or so, right? And then all that whole time, lots of juggling priorities, lots of crisis situations going on, dating in the past 10, 15 years or so. Changing course to deal with changed circumstances. I don't know about you and your job, but I deal with this all the time. I'll be working on a resume, just about finished with it. Now the client called me up saying, "Hey, Lauren, I know that we've been talking about, this fantastic resume that's going to get me my next job in marketing. And I've been in marketing, but you know what? My wife and I talked, I'm going back to school and I'm going to go into IT. So now I need an entry-level IT resume." Oh, okay, fantastic. So talking about changed circumstances, I deal with all the time. I have to assume that just about every single person does on their job. So think about that. When did you have to change course because you were given different or new information? That might make a great accomplishment. Working with difficult client or internal situations. Now, whether it is, these are important stories to create, not only for your resume, but also for the interview, because there are a lot of interview questions focused around difficult situations, difficult clients, difficult coworkers, etc. Here's what I want you to remember, and I will be talking about this question in the acing the interview. So next time we'll talk about this. But here's what I want you to keep in mind. Anytime, whether it's for your resume or for an interview, anytime that you're talking about difficult situations, focus on the situation, not the person. Okay. Because the moment that you focus on the difficult person, oh, my boss always took smoke breaks, or, my coworkers never did their job right, or this client would call me up every day and complain. Well, guess what? The minute you start focusing on that, whether it's writing this into your resume or talking about it during an interview, you just became the negative person. Okay. So always, even if you have to change the question that you're asked in an interview, focus on the situation, not the person. Okay. Let's see. Talk about times of cost savings, profit generation, financial astuteness. Remember, money is the language of business, right? So even if, well, that'll be skipping ahead and I don't want to do that, but I have a little rhyme. I have a little rhyme that I wrote. It's not Shakespeare by any chance or Longfellow by any means, but think about this. Consider any time that you have created a dollar that did not exist before, or kept a dollar from walking out the door. So think about those situations, creating money or saving money. Write those out and put them on your resume. Dollar signs, fantastic symbol to get there. And by the way, if you're in sales, here's a little trick. If you're in sales or any type of revenue position, dealing with revenue, dealing with budgets, whatever, a lot of times a keyword that employers will type into their keyword scanner is a dollar sign. So if you're in sales and you look through your resume and you say, wow, I've got only $1 sign in here, guess what? You would not be getting through that ATS no matter how great the rest of your resume was. Okay. So if you are in any kind of revenue building, cost cutting, budget, anything to do with money, you want to put some dollar signs in there, because there's a very good chance that dollar sign will be in the keyword search in the ATS. Okay. Next one, improving a company's competitive stance. And there are others. Every single industry is going to have their own set of conditions and questions that you can ask to create really, really great bullets. I believe, really, and this is really true, I really believe that every single bullet in your resume should either be an accomplishment or have keywords in it, but preferably both. So every single bullet ideally would be built around an accomplishment that included keywords. That is a great resume. And if you can here's what you've done. If you can accomplish that, even if, let's say most, there still may be one or two here and there that it wasn't an accomplishment, it doesn't have a keyword, but it is something I want to talk about. That's fine. But if the majority of the bullets in your resume are not accomplishments or keywords, then you've just got a lot of extra stuff that doesn't belong on a resume, because it's not getting you that traction. It's not getting you through the ATS. Okay. Because if it's not a keyword, it's not getting you through the ATS. And if it's just ho-hum work, it probably isn't what you want to do in your next career. It's most likely not going to catch an employer's attention. Okay. So that's why all of this is really important. Creating bullets that have that kapow. By kapow, I mean accomplishments and keywords. If you can do that with the majority of your bullets, then you've done a really good job in your resume. So, what is the most recognized symbol on earth, English, even in non-English speaking countries? And I just talked about it, so hopefully it's still on your brain. I'll give you a second to consider that. Ta-da, the almighty dollar. Even countries that do not use our money recognize our money. So again, that's just a really quick reminder to get those dollar signs. And I always have people who say, okay, well, what about percentage? Are percentage signs just as effective? No, they aren't. They are recognized as a symbol. They are rarely put in as a keyword. So if you can transition, if you can convert percentages to dollars, that's fantastic. Okay. Now, what if you're not in sales? I have people say, I'm in customer service, but I don't deal with sales. I don't deal with invoices. I don't do any of that. Okay. Well, then here's a question. Have you created a new process or changed your something in your work that could have saved the company any money. Really quick story. A couple years ago, I was doing outplacement for a company. I was working with a lot of people in their customer service department. And one woman was really struggling to come up with accomplishments. She said, I sat on the phone all day, took customers' situations and, figured out where their shipment was or whatever, but we didn't do any sales. We didn't deal with any money. So I started asking her some other questions, and one of the questions was, well, what do you love to do? And she said, well, one of the things that just sparked a memory in her. And she said, I actually do like solving problems as a customer service person. And then she told me the story. Um, this was a company who used to be a catalog company. They didn't use catalogs anymore, but they were still using the same very outdated DOS-based computer system. But in customer service, they didn't have any way to journal. When a customer would call and had a big problem with an order or whatever, they didn't have any way to journal that in case the situation had to be solved by bringing another employee in or whatever. So there's a lot of conversation, there's a lot of handwritten notes, etc. Well, she was tooling around in their program and she found this one field that they no longer used. It was for entering the catalog number or something like that. And she realized that she, typing and typing and typing, and it wasn't stopping her at 5 or 10 digits or whatever. It was basically just extended space. And so she came up with an idea that could they possibly expand this field and make that their journaling page so that they could take notes. And therefore, if a week later a customer had the same or similar problem, called in and got a different customer service rep, that customer service rep could then refer to those notes and say, oh, I see what was going on, let me jump in. Previously, when that would happen, two customer service people would have to get off the phones, talk, figure things out. It was cumbersome, it was a waste of money, just a really bad system. So she actually got permission from her manager to work with one of the IT people, and they drew it out, created it as its own page, added a couple bells and whistles that were easy enough and enhanced the customer service communications. And it turns out that she actually saved the company a lot of money because now they weren't taking two people off the phones. They weren't having to do a lot of conferencing or going back redundant questions, etc., because all the information was there. So we figured out it saved, we figured out that it saved every person in that department about 2 hours every week. There were about 20 people in the department. All of them were making, I don't know, around $20 or an hour or so. So we just did simple math. 20 people times $20 an hour at 2 hours a week came up with a really easy number. We were able to say that this project that she worked on saved the company this much money per quarter, and then per year. And it wasn't a lot of money. It wasn't an awful lot of money, but she came back and told me in every single interview, that was the one thing that every interviewer wanted to talk about. Because again, money is the language of business. Okay. So even if you're not in sales, figure out, do you have any of those little stories that you could translate into a couple of dollar signs and get on your resume? Employers love those type of stories. Okay, so now here's an exercise for you that is going to change your resume into accomplishments and then bringing in those keywords. But accomplishments is the focus of this exercise. It's called the 2 questions exercise. I want you to go through your resume. So pull out your resume and then have a pad of paper or your laptop, whatever you're comfortable taking notes with, but you're going to read out every single bullet in your resume. So you're going to read the first bullet, whatever it is, read it, and then ask yourself, what were the results of this work? So then you go back to that bullet. Okay, whatever it was, what were the results of this work? Oh, okay, well, here were a couple results. Write those down. And then ask yourself, why was this work important? And write that down. Meaning, why was this work important to the company or to the clients? internal or external customers, whatever. And if you can't come up with the answer and off the bullet, then go to the results. Go to the results that you just generated and say, okay, why was this work important in terms of reaching these results? Okay. A quick example for you. This was a purchasing manager of a large school district. Okay, so not just purchasing supplies for one location. I think there was something like 15 schools in this district or something like that. And one of the bullets that I pulled from his resume was source, compare prices, and purchase office equipment and supplies, as well as review and approve supply requisitions. That's a mouthful, and it's actually kind of the whole definition of a purchasing manager, right? So if we kind of broke this apart and then asked that question, what were the results of this work? So what would the results of this work be? Again, source, compare prices, purchase office equipment, supplies, as well as review and approve supply requisitions. Well, the results of this work may be saved money, right? That's kind of a natural, okay, so you save some money. Review and approve supply requisitions. What would the results of that would be? Well, in his particular case, it actually saved a lot of money because there were people just ordering stuff willy-nilly and there was no comparison. Like, wait a minute, this person at location 1 just asked me to order 20 boxes of pens, but 2 days later another person at location 1 asked for 20 boxes of pens. So we're going to put a stop to that and let everyone know the pens are coming. Previously, that process was not put in place, and so they'd have tons and tons of one thing and then nothing of another, and it was just a big mess. So he put together a really good system for that, where there were no redundant purchases, and when something was low, they'd know to automatically redo it. Source, compare prices. Now this one, sourcing and comparing prices, they had vendors all over the place. Well, what he was able to do is consolidate that, just drill down to maybe 3 or 4 different vendors, because they figured out this vendor sells this, but it also sells this, 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 and this that we're ordering from every other vendor. So they consolidated all of that. Then what they were able to do is negotiate higher discounts and service terms. So from this one sentence, again, it's a mouthful of a sentence, but we were able to rewrite it in terms of lots of accomplishments, lots of cost savings, lots of budget oversight, lots of process oversight, all good stuff. And then we were able to throw in keywords all over the place. So I think that from this one bullet, I think I was able to create about 4 bullets. All of them contained both accomplishments and keywords. Okay, so this 2 questions exercise, I promise you, even if you only do it with 1 bullet on your resume, it's going to make your resume that much better, and hopefully encourage you and motivate you to keep using this exercise, because this could be absolutely the turnaround in your resume that it needs, just that jolt. Okay, so I'll talk about some general housekeeping, then we'll see if there are any questions. So again, use those keywords throughout the resume. Create, by the way, this is something when I say create your keyword list first, that's what I tell I've got 6 resume writers who work for me. These are expert resume writers who have been writing resumes for a really long time. So generally I let them, do their jobs and trust them to do their jobs because they're fantastic. But the one thing I keep telling them, find your keyword list first. Create that keyword list first, whether it's from Google List, whether it's from LinkedIn, whether it's from wherever. You create that keyword list first, and then start writing the resume with those keywords in mind. Next, no boxes. This is an ATS tip here. Again, applicant tracking software. Applicant tracking software, again, can only do what it's programmed to do. Boxes on a resume. What is a box? A box is a text box. A box is a box that you can create out of the lines. I can't right now, in the formatting, you can box things up. Let's see. Boxes are tables. That's right. Tables are boxes. Even if you go in to the formatting and make the grids invisible, it's that formatting of it that creates it as a box. And lastly, a box is a border, a page border. So I see so many resumes say they have a page border on it. It looks very, very elegant, but guess what? It's working as a big force field that keeps that ATS out. Going back to tables, generally where I see tables are right under the summary, right before the work history, where people will say, you know, core competencies or selected competencies, something like that. And they've got a table so that everything lines up really nice. But what's in those table? The keywords. It's the candidate's keywords. So they're actually putting a force field around their keywords, which is the last thing that you want on your resume. So no tables, no page borders, no boxes that are created as boxes, and no creating the lines that create boxes that way. I should really remember what that's called. Sorry about that. But basically no boxes whatsoever. You can use underline. Underline is fine. You can use columns. Columns are absolutely fine for lining things up. No boxes. The ATS generally cannot get through. Acts as a force field. Let's see. My next tip here: is this candidate worth the flip? Now, I was a recruiter for a number of years. Back in the 90s, and there's a recruiting phrase out there. Recruiters share candidates a lot, depending on which posting this one is working on. They'll say, hey, do you have any accounting candidates? Well, I do, but this one's not worth the flip. So what are they saying? What they're saying is, don't even bother looking at the second page of the resume, because the first page isn't all that great. It's horrible, horrible phrase, but it does exist. What this tells you, the reason I want you to know this: all hiring decisions, all interview decisions are pretty much made on the first page of your resume. Okay. So use your first page of the resume to really grab the attention and tell your best story. Of course, you can have a second page of the resume. I write two-page resumes all the time, but on that second page is going to be older career history, education. Too many resumes that I see today, candidates try to get a little too fancy. So they'll have a summary statement, a list of core competencies, selected accomplishments, technical skills, you know, communities, community involvement, whatever. They'll put all of these different sections on the front page, on the top of the resume, and all that does is push your career history down, 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 down. And your career history, recent and recent equals relevant. That's where you're going to be putting a lot of keywords, etc. If you're littering, and I'm sorry to use that word, but if you're littering your first page with a bunch of stuff just trying to be extra fancy, that's actually working against you. For me, the first page of the resume, your contact information at the top, a 3 to 5 sentence summary, and then your work history. I don't use core competencies with the keywords and all of that, because I'm going to put those keywords in the body of the resume where it matters most. I'm going to use those keywords in the bullets, accompanied by accomplishments and achievements. I don't need that core competencies section, because all the keywords are going to be in there anyway. So it's definitely going to get all the pings from the ATS that you want, right? So even if you take that core competency section off, again, I never put it on a resume, but all those keywords are going to be there in the actual bullets. Now, I've had people say, well, yeah, but seeing those keywords right at the top, that usually gets an employer or recruiter's attention. Well, it might, but here's the thing. Too many times I'll take that resume and I'll see that core competencies. Very first thing I do is Control F, so it pulls up a little find box, and I'll put in 1 or 2 of those core competencies, do a search for it, and the only place that that word exists is in that table. Employers look at that too. Employers look at that too. So if the only place you have that particular keyword is in that table, you don't get any credit for it when it reaches the employer or the recruiter, because you're not using it. You're not showing where and when you used it in your career history. So those tables, sometimes they do more harm than good. I keep saying tables, but that section, the core competency section, sometimes does more harm than good. So for me, I leave it out. I want more room on that first page to show off the accomplishments of that person's work. All right, so something to consider. But if you are going to use that core competency section, you have to make sure that all of those words are used elsewhere in the resume as well. Okay, otherwise they don't belong on your resume. Let's see, margins and fonts. You always want to make sure to have a great balance of white and black on your resume. You don't want it to be so condensed with content that the reader has no place to rest their eye for a moment and digest the information that they're getting. If it's just all compact with content, they may skim through it and they're not going to remember anything. Okay, so if you've got it broken up nicely, you've got good space, you've got a little bit of space in between each bullet, and it's nicely paced out, that actually gives the reader a better chance of digesting, remembering, being impressed with your content that's going to lead to that interview callback. And then best paper. Now, this is kind of a funny one because how often are you going, how often do you need a paper resume? Well, only when you're going on an interview. You do make sure to bring a bunch of copies of your resume and print it out on laser paper instead of just general copy paper. Let's see, I don't have an example. I guess, I should have an example, but I don't. Yeah. All right, so I took some notes on this piece of paper. But if you hold up your resume to the light and you can clearly see through it, then that's copy paper. If you hold it up to the light and the light is blocked a little bit and the page still looks nice, crisp, and white, that's laser paper. It's just a much better presentation when, and it's an in-person presentation because, again, no one mails in their resume anymore. But yeah, so when you are consider, you have to think about every single part of the presentation, whether that's online, emailing, or uploading your resume to the interview. Bring copies of your resume and print it out on laser paper. Just a nice little touch to the presentation. Okay, so that is what I've got for you. I'm more than happy to answer any questions. Here's my contact information. Here's my little dog Gemma, who's been here. She's always at least, no more than a foot away from me. But so yeah, so I am more than happy to take any questions, but here's my contact information if you want to follow up with me at another time.
Okay, I'm going to stop the recording now so everyone feels comfortable asking questions.